My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 69 fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my DraftKings plays. Before I jump in, head on over to WeWantPicks.com, become a premium member, and you will unlock everything you have ever needed to build a winning DraftKings lineup. First of all, we have an optimizer. We have a DraftKings optimizer, which will help you build a lineup. It'll help you build 150 lineups at one time with a couple of clicks here and there, and you're good to go. What you also get with just $10 a month, there's no tiers here. It's not $10 for the optimizer, $15, no, bullshit. It's $10 across the board for literally everything from bets all the way to fantasy. And what else you're going to get on the DraftKings side is you're going to come in, you're going to see our favorite cash core plays, our GPP core plays, live dogs, leverage, and fades. Leverage is a proprietary calculation that we have put together to help you find spots to make your lineups different than other people to help you in those large tournaments. You're also going to get this magnificent cheat sheet. This is an interactive chart that will be fully populated by Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and you're going to get the DraftKings ownership projections, the DraftKings scoring projections, and you're going to get that proprietary leverage score. And then if you come down, you are going to see our salary rankings by cash game, single entry, or multi-entry. All of this exact same content for FanDuel as well. So head on over to WeWantPicks.com and click Become a Member at the top. It's $10 a month. $10 a month. And even if you think everything coming out of my mouth is absolute nonsense, well, just use the optimizer or take a look at the DraftKings ownership projections and the scoring projections. Our ownership projections were literally the best in the industry last week. We were like 3% off from the actuals, or 3.4. I forget what the exact number is, but we are better than any major production out there. So I'm not including any Tom, Dick, and Harry's Patreon, but ours were better than every one of the larger charge you for our service $50 a month type programs. So WeWantPicks.com, become a member, log in. You'll see everything you've ever needed to see. Let's go ahead and break down this card. These are interesting weeks. There's only 11 fights, so there's only 22 fighters on this entire card, and there's a couple of people that just aren't going to win, which makes these breakdowns even trickier. So let's do what we do. We're going to start at the bottom, work our way to the top, and we got Clayton Carpenter taking on Juan Camilo Ronderos. Clayton Carpenter making his UFC debut, so we're not going to see any stats here. The dude is young. He's like early 20s, but he has been competing on an international level at multiple combat sports since he was a child. His parents literally have been flying him around the world and letting him compete in combat sports since he was just a wee lad. And frankly, he's good. He's very, very good. He's a very slick grappler. He'll come in there. He will dominate with the wrestling. He will hunt for submissions. He will take chances, which I don't love. But I absolutely think he gets this win, and I think he wins by finish. He's fighting Juan Camilo Ronderos. He's had quite a break. He's coming back after about a year and a half away. He's a fast-paced striker. He will throw in combinations, then he'll reset and he'll start over. He has had a few injuries, a few issues. Somebody mentioned a USADA issue. I don't think that's the case, but he's had a few issues. But during that time, he's been a coach, and he's been very vocal about coaching people has helped me increase my fight IQ, so I'm not going to make the same mistakes I used to make, which means he's probably not going to come charging in like an animal, and he's going to look to wrestle, which is totally fine because Clayton Carpenter is going to be the much better grappler. So I like Clayton Carpenter here. $9,300 on a UFC debut in his early 20s is always risky, but I do think he will get it done. Then we got AJ Fletcher at $9,100. I think he's another... AJ Fletcher's tricky. On one hand, he's a killer. If you watch all of his pre-UFC fights, he goes out there, he looks to remove your head from your body, and then he will wrestle the shit out of you. This kid is very good, very fast, athletic, powerful, has all the tools. And when he went out there against Matt Semmelberger, sorry, my kids have been throwing up all week. I've been traveling for work, trying to get back in the swing of things here. Semmelberger won that fight, but scored fewer points in DraftKings. So Semmelberger got the 30-point win bonus for a decision and still scored less than 64. He went out there, he got his takedowns, he landed some big strikes, he had some big moments. Ultimately, he lost that fight because of like a last-second takedown in the third round by Matt Semmelberger, if I'm remembering that correctly. But that was a super close fight. And he went out there on short notice and showed us how tough he is. Then he came back against Angelusa. He almost put Angelusa out. He almost put him out. He went out there, had him rocked, chased the finish, gassed, and then lost that fight. And on one hand, I'm overly critical saying, I don't know if I could trust this guy with my money. On the other hand, you know, if I'm being more reasonable about it, it was at altitude. He almost had this dude out on his feet and then got exhausted chasing that. So I think AJ Fletcher should win this fight. He is fighting a UFC debut, Themba Garimbo. Themba Garimbo is a distant striker. He's got really long arms, really long legs. He does not have this one-punch knockout power. He'll plot forward. He'll also counter-strike. But his hands are high. He can be hittable. I think that AJ Fletcher can come in here, shoot at those legs, take him down, potentially finish him. So AJ Fletcher is going to be in my lineup, but I did not bet on him with actual real-life money because, you know, I do want to see him get that first win before I'm fully committed, but I do think he'll get the finish. I will risk a spot in my DraftKings lineup for him. And when I do these breakdowns, I'm mostly talking about cash entries. Your tournament plays, head over to the website. We have a full slate of rankings and breakdowns and plays and the optimizer. That's for tournament people. What I'm doing here is more to give you the general gist of who I think's going to win, how I think they're going to score, but I'm building cash lineups for the most part here. Then we're going to take a look at Ovince St. Preux and Felipe Lins. Ovince St. Preux, it's so tricky, man. This guy's so talented. He can wrestle. He can strike. He actually has more submission wins than he has knockout wins. And this guy has power in his hands. He's actually very good everywhere. The problem is he's low volume and he doesn't seem to care. He just doesn't seem to have that dog in him. He doesn't seem to want to go out there and set the world on fire and make a name for himself. He has bounced between heavyweight and light heavyweight. This Ben Rothwell fight, if he had a touch more output, this was peak COVID. And we're just watching the shit out of this stuff because that's the only thing on TV. And I thought Ovince St. Preux was going to win it. I put him in my DraftKings lineup. And if he had a touch more output, he would have won that fight. But he didn't, and that's the problem with Ovince St. Preux. He's usually the more talented guy, never the busier guy, never really pushing that pace, never really letting his hands go. He is fighting Felipe Lins. Felipe Lins is also a former heavyweight. He's a very busy guy. He'll come forward. He does have legit power in his hands. He seemed to have carried that down with him when he fought Prochnia. This was his first fight at light heavyweight. And you can see he was wrestle heavy. We haven't really seen that out of him, but he had 4 takedowns, a decent amount of control time, and he put up some very real numbers in that decision win. I think Felipe Lins is going to get this done. I think it's going to be a typical St. Preux fight. St. Preux is going to be more talented. You're going to want, right there, and he's just not going to do anything. And that's going to be the problem here. He's not going to let his hands go, as he hasn't in the past. There's no reason to think otherwise now at this point in his career. Meanwhile, Felipe Lins is going out there swinging, trying to get it done. So I like Felipe Lins in this spot. I don't know if I'm going to spend the $8,800. Some people are more confident than I am in Felipe's ability to get a finish here. Then we have Jamal Emmers, and he's taking on Hussein Ashkabov. Jamal Emmers is interesting because, yes, he has this loss to Pat Sabatini. And yes, he has this loss to Giga Chikadze. All this says is decision, right? That's all the context you have here. But that was a split decision. That was a very close decision. He had some moments of success there. He did have 2 takedowns as well. Giga, historically, not the easiest guy to take down. Jamal Emmers is a wrestler who has developed hands. He beat Cachero, and then Pat Sabatini, yes, he was submitted, and he was submitted early, but he dropped that dude big time, cracked him. He didn't get credit for a knockdown, but he almost had Pat Sabatini out. And then he followed him to the ground, and Pat Sabatini sucked up that ankle and got it done. And he's fighting Hussein Ashkabov, and it's an interesting matchup here. I actually am all over the Hussein Ashkabov side. The line has been interesting if we're looking at the betting line for a second. Hussein was a decent-sized favorite, and then it plummeted. This is an undefeated Chechen wrestler, and the line plummeted, and now it's creeping its way back up. I think it'll close about where it started, but you might have gotten some really good value when his line dropped big time. He is an undefeated prospect. He's a Chechen wrestler. He has 8 18 career stoppage under his belt. A lot of these guys, some of their records are a bit inflated. They're a little fluffy, and his is as well. But he's a dangerous dude who's going to come in with heavy leg kicks. He's going to throw to the head. He's going to close the distance. He's going to work his takedowns. He will shoot a double, or he will just clean pick you up and dump you. I like him here. I think he's going to get the win, and I like $8,300 for him as well. If you're nervous about a new, UFC newcomer in this spot, then go the other side. You're getting almost even money. I am surprised at these price points because I get it. I just said people are not giving Jamal Emmers the credit he deserves. I'm included in that group. I'm not giving him as much credit as he deserves. But I think Hussein Ashkabov is going to get this done. I think he's going to out-wrestle the wrestler. I don't know if he's going to be able to outstrike him with raw power, but he should be faster. He should have better kicks. And frankly, if he's losing the striking, he can go to the wrestling. He should be the much better wrestler. We talk about this all the time on this show. There are levels to wrestling. I spent my whole life wrestling. There are people that were very good in my state that I would beat the piss out of, and then I go to a different state like New Jersey, and I will get my ass kicked. It is very different levels, regionally and internationally as well. Jamal Emmers being a very good wrestler does not matter when we're talking about, a lot of these Chechen, Russian, Dagestani. When we're talking about some of these other international wrestlers, it's not like Jamal Emmers was on the Olympic team or anything like that. So again, people, myself included, are not giving Jamal Emmers the credit he deserves. He's very, very good, but I am on the other side, and I probably will have Ashkabov in my lineup. Then we have one of the easier fights to break down. We've got Mayra Bueno Silva. She's taking on Lina Landsberg. Mayra Bueno Silva, decent striker, okay power, very good kicks, phenomenal grappler. The problem is her wrestling sucks. Look at this. Submission win, no takedown. Submission win, no takedown. Submission win, no takedown. She just can't take anybody down. Her takedowns are absolute dog trash, but if it gets to the ground, she's very, very dangerous. She can hang in the striking. And, her loss here to Ferro, well, Manon Ferro might be vying for a title very shortly. So I think Mayra Bueno Silva is absolutely going to win this fight. $9,500 is a lot to spend, though, because she is fighting Lina Landsberg. And what makes this tricky is Lina Landsberg is a world champion Muay Thai striker. World champion Muay Thai striker. Not decent Muay Thai. World champion. But she can't defend a takedown to save her life. And the Cara Rosa fight showed that. She just cannot defend a takedown. She's got power. She's got striking technique, but she can't defend a takedown. The one and only thing that makes this tricky is Mayra Bueno Silva hasn't taken anybody down in the UFC yet. She's going to need to take Lina Landsberg down. But of all the fights where she's going to need to take somebody down, Lina Landsberg's probably the easiest to take down. So I do like Mayra Bueno Silva to win. If she ends up in a kickboxing match, that's probably going to be a problem for her, but I think she will somehow manage to get this to the ground and will somehow get the finish. Therefore, I think Mayra Bueno Silva is worth the $9,500, probably in a cash play. Make sure, if you're a premium member, check the cheat sheet, check the leverage. That's a proprietary score for you that will help you differentiate yourself in the larger tournaments. And then also check the ownership projections, because if you're doing a large tournament or even a cash game, if Mayra Bueno Silva is very highly owned in a cash game, then you can go ahead and throw her in there as well, right? Everybody else is going to have her. For the most part, you should be fine. The exact opposite logic with a large tournament. If everybody's going to have her in a large tournament, then fade her. Fade her. Look at the leverage score, fade her, and grab somebody else that's going to score, is projected to score about the same at a different price point with lower ownership. That's what the leverage does. It calculates all of those things and gives you that number. So different strategies for different type of DraftKings tournament play. I'm typically a cash person. I like scooping up some of these 50-50s. I got a friend league, stuff like that. I will like Mayra Bueno Silva in my lineup because I do think she could potentially get a finish. But if she doesn't, she's not going to score very well in just an annoying striking match on her feet. Then we have Evan Elder, and he's taking on Nazim Setikov. This is an interesting fight. Evan Elder's a lot of people's favorite underdog this week. And I get it. He's a talented guy. He's pretty good everywhere. He's got loose striking where he's going to land heavy kicks. He's going to land solid punching combinations. He has takedowns as well. And he hits the mat after those takedowns, and he's very composed. He will methodically work for control while still managing to improve his position and look for submission. So I like Evan Elder. I think $7,600 is a very good underdog spot here. You're going to see this Preston Parsons loss. Well, that was short notice. and it was at welterweight. He's a 55-pounder, and he stepped up on short notice in a UFC debut at a different weight class. And he's fighting Nazim Setikov. A lot of people are loving Nazim this week as well. You're getting a lot of differentiated opinions. A lot of people saying he's going to put Evan Elder out, and a lot of people saying Evan Elder is the best underdog on this card. Nazim Sadikov's a solid kickboxer. He's got speed. He's got power. He does take his time on his feet, and then he'll take his openings. So he's going to plot forward, counter-strike at the same time, and even though he is patient, he'll do some stupid shit. He'll do some spinning attacks, and the only loss on his record is from he started some wild spin move for no reason whatsoever, and that was the beginning of the end for him. So I do think Evan Elder is a very good underdog pick. I like him at that price point. I think they definitely overpriced Setikov. So Evan Elder, you need underdogs in your lineup to make it work, and I think he's one of the best ones on this card. Where are we? Then we have Jim Miller and Alexander Hernandez. This is another controversial fight. And by controversial, I mean nobody in the comment section agrees. Jim Miller's a tried and true legend at this point. He's found himself in a nice 3-fight win streak. He beat Mata, Gonzalez, and then he retired Donald Cerrone in that second time he beat him. The Mata and Gonzalez wins were impressive because those were knockouts. Those weren't take you down, elbowing you in the face. He worked them with his hands on his feet, and that's not traditionally how Jim Miller fights. He's a grappler. He has okay takedowns, technical striking, but he's typically pretty stiff. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the strongest guy, but he is the hardest working guy. And he's going to go out there and he's going to fight for your money, and he's going to try to get it done. $7,300 on a legend like Jim Miller is a great price point, but he is, I don't have his age in front of me. He's like 39, 40, something like that. He is a little older. He does have miles on him. He's fighting Alexander Hernandez, who's like 30, 32. He's actually 30. I have the ages actually. 39 for Jim Miller, 30 for Alexander Hernandez. And that's what makes it so tricky. Alexander Hernandez is not an $8,900 fighter. He has all the tools. If you watch Alexander Hernandez in the practice room or against Mike Breeden or Grutzmacher, he is an $8,900 fighter. He has all the tools. He can wrestle. He can strike. He is fast. He's powerful. He's athletic. But he has no chin. And he just seems to, I don't think it's fight IQ issues, but he just seems to come up short in some of these big moments. Moicano, it's a tough fight. I get it. But he was subbed. Billy Quarantillo just knocked him out. Thiago Moises, decision. I get it. These are tough fights. Moicano, Quarantillo, Moises, those are very, very tough fighters. Drew Dober, very tough guy. Donald Cerrone, he turned a lot of people off going into that fight. He ran his mouth, then Donald Cerrone smacked the shit out of him. But he has a win over Beneil Dariush. He's got a win over Francisco Trinaldo. So I'm going to fade this fight entirely. I do think Alexander Hernandez wins this fight. I think he's more talented than Jim Miller. He's not tougher than Jim Miller, but he is younger, faster, stronger. All of the things. He just doesn't have that same grit. He doesn't have that same experience, but he's younger and all the athletic things. So I'm fading it entirely because, frankly, I don't know what's going to happen. I do think Alexander Hernandez wins, but I want to root for Jim Miller, so I'm not going to have Alexander Hernandez in my lineup at $8,900. Then we have William Knight taking on Marcin Prochnia. This is always tricky because William Knight is a beast. If you go to his Instagram, he's a straight-up bodybuilder. I mean, this dude is ripped top to bottom. He's got insane abs, which you don't expect on that body type because they're not just like some abs. They're like insane abs. He is jacked out of his mind, fast as hell, hits hard. He is actually a wrestler. He was a high school wrestler from my state of Connecticut, and he can use his wrestling, and he's got cardio. You don't look at him physically and say, oh, that guy has cardio. You assume he would gas immediately because it's a lot of muscle, but he does have decent cardio. He's got decent takedowns. He's got incredible power and speed. The problem is he tends to fold. And I don't want to be overly harsh here, but Devin Clark folded him. Maxim Grishin folded him, and that was after he missed weight by 12 pounds. 12 pounds, and I get it. That was a short notice type situation, but he accepted that fight knowing his weight, and he missed weight, and then instead of just missing weight like a man, he made every excuse, started yelling at people, turned his Instagram private, like really went on this like emotional spiral. That is the only reason that I can't trust William Knight with my money because $8,200 is a phenomenal price point for a dude that puts up these type knockout numbers. He's powerful, fast, has cardio, can wrestle. He's all the things, but Marcin Prochnia should actually be the better overall fighter. He's not as physically gifted, but he should be the more technically sound fighter. He was a big prospect coming into the UFC, and then unfortunately, he's had quite a few losses in the UFC. He was actually, I believe, undefeated heading into the UFC. But it's an interesting situation because he does have 400 combat karate wins. He's got a ton of martial arts experience. He's more of a technical brawler than anything, which is not great for this type fight. You don't want to be in a technical brawl with William Knight and those hands. But Marcin Prochnia does have power. His chin is not the best. He was taken down a bunch of times against Felipe Lins, which is, fine. I do think he gets it done. I think he can survive the early storm, keep up the pace, and then break William Knight. I don't know if I'm going to put him in my lineup, though, at $8,000 because he's going to be knockout or bust. And for a cash game, for a tournament play, you probably want him in your tournament. For a GPP, one of your lineups, he should probably be in there. He's an affordable price. He'll most likely be lowly owned. Check the website when those numbers are all final. And if he wins, he could put up some decent numbers. In a cash game, you want as many wins as possible. Marcin Prochnia is not necessarily a guaranteed win at this price point. I don't know what I'm going to do here. Frankly, William Knight is probably the better value because if he wins, he's going to score a bazillion points. But the dude's coming off 2 losses. One of those losses was a giant weight miss. The last loss, he was broken. He just broke halfway through that fight. His online presence is just an absolute roller coaster of emotions. I'm going to fade both of these guys. If Marcin had a better chin, he would be the guarantee 100% I'm all in. But, he does get knocked out. Bang, bang, bang. Ankalaev, Rodriguez, Alvey. Although Sam Alvey's better than a lot of people give him credit for. But fading both sides of that fight. Then we got Josh Parisian taking on Jamal Pogues. Jamal Pogues, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, he should be faded in DraftKings. The dude is $9,000. I get it. He's a heavyweight, but he's not a finisher. He is not a finishing heavyweight, and Josh Parisian has proven to be pretty tough. So I'm not spending $9,000 on a heavyweight who may not get a finish because without a finish at heavyweight, where the hell are these points going to come from? He is somewhat busy. He always seems to be throwing something. He's got volume, decent pace, but he doesn't have that power. He does not have that one-punch power you want to see. He can grapple. His first Contender Series fight, he did have 7 takedowns. He had takedowns on the regional scene as well. He's not dangerous anywhere, but he's pretty decent everywhere. And he's taking on Josh Parisian. Josh Parisian is a volume striker. He will come forward. He will put up big numbers. This fight with Parker Porter, this is when the record was set for significant strikes in a heavyweight match. He is a pretty tough guy. Yes, Dontel Mays put him out. That's freaking Dontel Mays who hits like a freight train, and he got knockdowns, or takedowns in that fight. I like Josh Parisian here. I think $7,200 is good value for him. He's a tough guy. He's a heavyweight. He has the much higher level of competing experience. We have seen him grapple, like in this last fight against Alan Badeau. We have seen him strike. We've seen him in a war. Like, we've seen him in every situation where Jamal Pogues is not dangerous anywhere, but he is a talented guy. We'll see what happens with him. But I like Josh Parisian to win the fight. When we're talking about underdogs and DraftKings, I think he's a solid price point at $7,200. Then we got Zach Pauga taking on Jordan Wright. I mean, listen, both of these guys are dangerous. Zach Pauga is a light heavyweight. You see this loss against Usman. That was the Ultimate Fighter finale at heavyweight. He went up to heavyweight just to compete on the Ultimate Fighter. Made it to the finale, and that's finally when his size caught up to him. He can wrestle. He's a very good wrestler. He's a strong wrestler, but he's also a very fast, powerful striker. He's a pretty well-rounded guy. Early in his career with only 7 fights, but he is talented, and he could do something in this division. And this is light heavyweight. He's taking on Jordan Wright. Jordan Wright's coming up from middleweight. He's trying to reinvent himself. Knockout, submission, knockout. Like, this dude is kill or be killed. He has never seen the judges' scorecard. He is finished in all of his losses, gets finishes in his wins. He does have power. He is a creative striker, but these last 2 fights, I think he's realized, all right, my chin sucks. I cannot be in here swinging, trying to make it happen. He tried to out-grapple Marc-Andre Barrault, but he was submitted. He got 2 takedowns, but he was submitted. Tried to out-grapple Todorovic. 3 takedowns. 5 minutes of control time. That's a full round. In the second round, he was stopped. I think it's a little more of the same. I think Zach Pauga is going to get it done. I don't think it's going to look like this Usman and heavyweight fight. So I like Zach to get it done. $9,200 is a lot of money to spend, but anybody who beats Jordan Wright earns their money because it's always a finish. If you're on the Jordan Wright side, which I see a lot of you are, then great. Be on the Jordan Wright side. You're going to get insane value at $7,000. But I think like all of his other losses, he likely gets finished. Then we got the main event. Jessica Andrade, $8,500. This is one of the best price points you're ever going to see Jessica Andrade at. $8,500. Lauren Murphy, they don't have her number here. It was a giant number. Amanda Lemos, $8,900. $9,000 on Calvillo. Yeah, she was affordable against Shevchenko because Shevchenko's the GOAT. You're going to get great value at $8,500. I personally think Jessica Andrade wins this fight. If you think Erin Blanchfield wins this fight, then you should have Blanchfield in your lineup. One of these women should be in your lineup. It's one of the very few times where more than likely there will be a finish in this fight. Jessica Andrade is a powerful, strong, hard-hitting bully who can grapple and wrestle as well. She's all of those things. She has beaten some of the best women on the planet. All of these women were ranked. Not Calvillo. I don't think Calvillo. Lemos, supposed to get a title shot. Murphy had a title shot. Chikagian was right there. Like all of these wins. Namajunas, former champion. Kolakevich, former champion. Tisha Torres, perennial contender. Claudia Gadeja, I think she was a champion at one point, if not perennial contender. These are all top women, and especially when she fought them. And her losses, okay, Wei Li, she lost to the champ. Namajunas, she lost to the champ. They were 1-1. Shevchenko lost to the champ. If you see her losing to Blanchfield, that means that you think Erin Blanchfield should be the champion and is one of the best women on the planet. I get it. Andrade is stepping up on short notice, but Erin Blanchfield is a grappler. Her striking is technical but stiff. Her takedowns are okay. They're not amazing. They're not terrible. She did just body Miranda Maverick for 3 rounds, put up a ton of points in that. Sarah Alpar, almost 11 minutes of control time, put up some good points there. But when have we seen somebody take Jessica Andrade down and just work her outside of Shevchenko? But Shevchenko's like tripping, judo, dangerous on her feet. Erin Blanchfield is not dangerous anywhere except immediately on the ground. Her takedowns aren't spectacular. Her striking's not very good. I think Andrade can keep it on her feet and beat the piss out of Erin Blanchfield. It's that simple. If we look at this J.J. Aldridge fight, J.J. Aldridge was touching her up. Erin Blanchfield was struggling. Couldn't get her down. She's not taking down J.J. Aldridge, then I don't see her taking down Jessica Andrade. Yes, she won that fight by submission, but she didn't get a takedown. That's not how that went. So I am on the Andrade side, but pick your poison. If you like Erin Blanchfield, like a lot of you in the comment section do, $7,700 is incredible value on the ground dangerous grappler who had a full fight camp. So pick your side in the main event. Guys, that's the breakdown. Head on over to WeWantPicks.com. It's freaking $10 a month. Even if everything that I just said is absolutely incorrect, what you will get are tools like the DraftKings Optimizer, like the fantasy cheat sheet for both FanDuel and DraftKings with ownership projections, scoring projections, and leverage. Leverage is a proprietary calculation. Proprietary, for some of you who may not know what that word is, means it's only us. We are the people. We invented that calculation. You're paying for some ass clown's Patreon right now. You know where they got their ownership from? They bought it from like a much larger company, and then they're copy pasting it. You know where we get our ownership from? We have like 5 different sources. We have a guy. I don't do it. There's a guy, a smarter guy than me. We have like 5 different sources. He takes all those different sources of ownership, all the different sources of scoring projections. He applies formulas. He weights those formulas based on historical accuracy and other stuff. And then we come out with our own number. Our ownership numbers are different than everybody else's because they are ours. The leverage, you're not even going to get leverage from most people. And again, it's different from everybody else's because it is ours. $10 a month. WeWantPicks.com at the top. Just click become a member and go from there. We're in the middle of this 10 fight or 11 fight week stretch. Every single Saturday we got fights. You're going to get a whole bunch of events out of that $10. WeWantPicks.com.